topic. I'm going to talk for a little while this morning about the pages that were assigned for this morning because of some of the issues that it brought up, and then I'm going to open the floor for y'all's response, and I'll probably do the same on Wednesday. I have a topic already in mind to lecture about on Wednesday. So. Today and Wednesday both I'll lecture for the first part of class, and then we'll discuss for the second part of class. And so the first question, and we started this conversation on Friday and last week, we started out really talking about Chris, and we started trying to understand who he is and why did he do what he did. And one of the theories that is floated about who he is and why he did what he did is his relationship with his parents. Now, up until page 116, knowing how the story ends, I think we thought as a collective entity, this classroom, I think we thought that Chris did not give Walt and Billy what they deserved, that it was really harsh the way he cut himself off from his family, that any young person who would disappear like that and never call like that and never write like that was being rude, selfish, disrespectful. And I alluded on the other day that, well, we're going to get to some information that might deepen our context. And if you're just reading along with the syllabus today, you know that we only got to the information that during the youth of this family, Chris's dad kind of played them. On page 121, if you haven't been there, you should have already been there for today, for today's reading. We learn of the, I don't want to call it the scandal. I hate that word, but we learn of the complex nature of Chris's dad's relational habits. Okay? He's not the first man in history to have led such a kind of a life, and there's many layers to this, and many people have been embroiled and found themselves having more than one partner, and yada, yada, yada. But basically, Chris resents his father because of this and of many other things too. But Chris's smoldering anger, it turns out, was fueled by a discovery he'd made 2 summers earlier during his cross-country wanderings on page 121. When he arrived in California, he'd visited the El Segundo neighborhood where he'd spent the first 6 years of his life. He called on a number of old family friends who still lived there, and from their answers to his queries, Chris pieced together the facts of his father's previous marriage and subsequent divorce, facts to which he had not been privy. Walt, split from his first wife, was not clean or amicable. Long after falling in love with Billy, long after she gave birth to Chris, Walt continued his relationship in secret, dividing time between 2 households and 2 families. Lies were told and then exposed. All parties suffered terribly. So here we have, it's not just, okay, some of the issues, these are the filmic depictions here of the family members. Mr. Walt and Ms. Billy McCandless, Chris McCandless' parents. Here are real photos taken from the website. Above, there's Chris and his dad, and there's his mom with flowers at the bus, the site of Chris's death. Now, we looked at if your parents work too much. Is that a reason to have the kind of deep resentment that Chris has? If your parents work too much, is it okay just to escape, to run away, to drop out in the way that he did, to divorce your parents in the way that he did? I think we agreed that just having workaholic parents isn't alone a grounds for divorcing your parents. And we even said, well, look, I was proud of my parents for how hard they worked, and when I had to spend time with my grandparents, one of you mentioned, when I had to spend time with my grandparents because my parents were working, I understood why they were doing it. What was the purpose of this? We knew from earlier passages in the text that Chris's parents fought a lot. Some of us come from broken homes. Some of us come from homes where the parents have stayed together, but there's been fighting. Is this a grounds for divorcing your mom and dad? We said no. In this chapter, we get a little bit more information, a little bit more background, a possible explanation for how Chris chose to roll when he left on his odyssey, on his adventure, on his road trip, on his pilgrimage, on his escape into the wild. Even still, grounds for the level of separation and the level of grief and pain that would happen, I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think these are the kinds of relationships that most times you want to maintain. Though over the years I've gotten to know a lot of young people here and through my profession, and I have learned of people who have struggled with mom or dad issues where there have been more extreme separations. I don't know, but there is, a condensation in this chapter of the feelings that he had and the feeling that you imagine that the dad had as well. Okay, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of guilt, there's a lot of resentment, there's a lot of pent-up stuff that undealt with stuff that you haven't dealt with. And as I was reading this, I thought maybe this is a classic Oedipal struggle. And I just want to throw this out as a theory for you all to dismiss, if you will, or to take it on if you like. And it is a possible explanation. And I think you can go too far with this kind of stuff when you are applying this idea to a work of literature. It's called psychoanalytical theory. And again, I mentioned in the reader response assignment sheet that I'm not asking you to apply any outside view or theory or opinion to the text. I'm saying just into all the texts that we're going to do this semester, I'm just saying read them as text, but you can always bring in an idea or a theory or some kind of outside philosophy or thought and apply it to a work of literature, and you may that may help you understand the work. At least I think dabbling in this, and that's all I've really done. I'm not a psychoanalyst. That's not the kind of writing about literature that I choose to do. That's not the kind of interpretive sort of perspective that I come from. But look, okay, you've got this son who accidentally kills his father and marries his mother. All right, that is the Oedipus complex. Okay, and it comes from a play, an ancient play. Freud took this idea and basically applied this to a lot of the problems that people have, a lot of the emotional, mental problems that people have, and theorizes that folks are messed up because of these unresolved issues. All right? In love with the mother, want to kill the father. All right? And a lot of times it has been reduced to a father-son rivalry and the repercussions of a father-son rivalry. And so now you get people like myself just sort of, from the elbow and the cuff and just kind of, speculating about the nature of the father-son struggle. But in reality, it's real. Our former president, right before President Obama, President Bush, we speculated as a society that some of the issues related to the war in Iraq were related to perhaps an Oedipal struggle that the younger George Bush had with the elder George Bush. This was talked about. This was addressed. Is it a valid? I'll let y'all decide. I don't know if it's a valid reasoning, and I want to hear from y'all in a minute on this. But this is a possible aspect to what we're dealing with McCandless, is that this is this rivalry that he has with